Let's begin with something simple. You don't know what your next step is. And if you're honest, that doesn't just feel like a small inconvenience. It can feel like everything is on pause. Because somewhere along the way, we picked up the belief that before we move, we need clarity. That before we act, we need certainty. That before we take one step, we need the whole map. But what if that's not true? What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you don't know enough, but because you're trying to know too much before you begin? There's a subtle trap here. When you try to figure out your whole life, your brain goes into overload. Too many options, too many outcomes, too many what ifs. And what happens? You freeze. Not because you're incapable, but because you're overwhelmed by the weight of trying to solve everything at once. So today I want to offer you a different way. Not a bigger plan, not a 10-step strategy, just a shift in how you relate to your next step. Because the truth is, you don't need your whole life figured out. You just need your next step. And here's where we go deeper. Because even that can feel confusing. How do I know what my next step is? So let's simplify it even more. Your next step is not the one that solves your entire life. It's the one that creates movement. That's it. Not perfection, not certainty, movement. Because movement creates feedback, and feedback creates clarity. Let me say that again. Movement creates feedback. Feedback creates clarity. So if you've been waiting to feel clear before you move, you've been waiting for something that only comes after you move. And that's why it feels like you're stuck in a loop. Now, let's bring this into something you can actually use. Here's the step for today, and it's different than anything we've offered so far. The step: follow the pull, not the plan. Instead of trying to figure out the right step, I want you to ask yourself this question. What is one thing I feel even a slight pull toward right now? Not the logical step, not the most impressive step, not the step that makes the most sense on paper, the one that brings energy behind it. Even if it's small, even if it doesn't seem like it leads anywhere, even if it feels almost too simple. Because here's something most people overlook. Your next step often doesn't arrive as a clear instruction. It arrives as a pull, a curiosity, a nudge, a quiet maybe this. And we ignore it because it doesn't look big enough or strategic enough or certain enough. But that pull, that's movement trying to happen. That's your system saying, start here. And when you follow it, something shifts. You take the step, you get feedback, you learn something, and suddenly the next step becomes visible. Not because you figured it all out, but because you moved. This is how momentum actually works. Not from clarity to action, but from action to clarity. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do, let's soften that. You don't need to know what to do. You just need to notice what's pulling you and take one step toward it. That's it. And I know part of you might still resist this because it feels uncertain. But here's the truth. Trying to control the entire path is what's creating the uncertainty. Letting yourself take one step is what begins to dissolve it. So today, don't ask, what's the perfect next move? Ask, what is one thing I feel drawn to even slightly? And then act on it. Even if it's small, even if it feels insignificant. Because that step is not just a step, it's a signal to yourself that you are no longer waiting, you are moving. And everything begins to change from there. If this resonates with you and if you're ready to move, but still feel that internal friction, I want you to go deeper with this. Head over to the Stage Podcast, where we break this down from another angle and help you continue building real momentum. Because you're not stuck. You're just been trying to solve too much at once. Let's simplify it. One step, one pull, one movement forward, and from there we build. You don't need the whole path, just the next step. And it's already closer than you think.